I am going to share with you 10 things that your driving examiner will absolutely hate. I know the idea is not to scare the living daylights out of you. But nor am I going to sugarcoat this. If you have one of these habits, or in some cases, you make one of these mistakes, you will end up failing your driving test. But the good news is, by watching this, you are going to avoid making any of these mistakes and have a far higher chance of passing that driving test first time. And remember, these videos take me absolutely ages, so if you could show some love by just booping that like button, it would mean the world. Now sit back, take some notes, and let's dive into the video. Now, the examiner would absolutely hate to see this. Running a red light, an amber light, hold on with that one, we will come back to it, or a stop sign. This is one of the most illegal, this is one of the most dangerous, this is one of the most dangerous and illegal, this is one of the most dangerous, oh my God. No! This is one of the most dangerous and illegal things that you can do while driving, and of course will lead to an immediate driving test fail. Now let's face it, red light's easy, you stop for a red light. Stop signs look a bit like this. Again, you see a stop sign, bring the car to a complete stop. The amber light, that's where the trouble begins. There's often a lot of trouble around the amber light. Do I go, do I stay? Do I stay or do I go? Did you have time to stop the car before it went red? If the answer is yes, you're going to get a failed driving test. If the answer is maybe, then you may get away with one driving fault. However, if you come across another amber light and the same thing happens again, that could be a bad day. If you think I can stop for this amber light, then just start braking. Oh, this one's a good one. The examiner does not like this. Failing to signal. You know those things called indicators? You know when you're driving around and you see someone and they're not indicating, you think, he must have got a discount on that car. He didn't get a discount, he just forgot to use his signals. Now the problem we have is our signals are our most helpful tool for everyone else around us. They're no good for us, they're no good for the passenger. We know exactly where you're going. It's every other Tom, Dick and Harry out there that doesn't have a clue. So if you're approaching a roundabout and you're planning to turn left and you forget to signal, this means anyone pulling out of that junction on the roundabout hasn't got a clue where you're going, therefore they can't go either, which is very selfish of us to hold everyone else back, creating more traffic because we couldn't be bothered to press the signal. This is going to really pee the examiner off. So make sure that you have good habits and you are keeping up with those signals. That being said, it can be just as bad leaving our signal on and just as dangerous. If you're driving down a straight road and you've left your left signal on and there's a car waiting at the next junction on the left, guess what they're going to do as you approach? Yep, you probably guessed it, they're gonna pull out on you. And how do I know? Because I've done it. And trust me, it is not a fun experience that I ever want to do again. But if you are forgetting to signal, it's showing the examiner you either have a lack of awareness or you have a lack of responsibility. Either way, it's really not gonna go down well. Now this one is pretty obvious. The examiner is going to hate it if you are speeding or doing anything else which is breaking the law. And if you want to double check if something is law or not, by the way, it's quite easy to check in the highway code. There's two phrases that they use. One is you must not, and the other one is you should not. So speeding, for instance, you must obey order signs. So as an example, rule 124 in the highway code, you must not exceed the speed limits for a road for your vehicle. A speed limit of 30 miles per hour generally applies to all roads with streetlights, excluding motorways, unless signs show otherwise. So it actually tells you in the highway code, if there are streetlights, then chances are it's going to be a 30 mile per hour road. The other example is the you should not. For instance, keep in the left lane unless overtaking. If you're overtaking, you should return to the left lane when it's safe to do so. This shows that this particular rule is not a legal must not. However, you are still going to fail your driving test if you carry on doing it. Driving above the speed limit on a road is illegal and it's going to be considered dangerous, which means it is going to be an instant fail on your driving test. Lucky for us, the examiners are not stupid. I mean, it's lucky I'm not an examiner, otherwise... If you go a few miles over the speed limit in a situation that's not at all dangerous, chances are the examiner is going to let you off with just a driving fault. But don't put your money on it. From my experience, learners have had up to 3 driving faults for going over the speed limit by approximately 3 to 4 miles per hour on 3 separate occasions. Again, these were in situations that it wasn't particularly dangerous, there was no immediate risk to other people or other vehicles, and the learners very quickly brought that speed back down without the examiner having to intervene. But I have also seen plenty of people fail for just speeding once, including myself, going 36 in a 30 zone, so definitely don't put your money on it. Oh, the examiner's not going to like this one. Hitting the curb, or any other obstacle for that matter. Let me just clear something out. We're not talking a little kiss, a little caress of the curb. That's just going to go down as a driving fault. We're talking a boom, we're up that curb, we're now on the side of the curb, we've had a big bash on the wheel, not a good situation. This shows a complete lack of control of the vehicle, which can lead to a dangerous situation. You're in the pedestrian area. It's just not a good place to be. I mean, that's just my opinion. Now, let's be honest, if you are hitting a curb on your driving test, chances are that is nerves. They've got a little bit too involved. We're a little bit anxious. However, sometimes nerves are there because we aren't feeling as confident in our own driving ability as we should. So keep that in mind. Sometimes the examiner will let you off on this if it is a particularly tight corner that you're going to struggle to get out without the back wheel touching that curb. But again, don't put your money where your mouth is. The best answer to this is to slow the car down at these sorts of junctions. The next one that's going to end very, very quickly is a rolling stop at zebra crossings when someone's crossing, and stop signs. The stop sign is there to let you know you are required legally to bring that car to a full stop. When someone's actually crossing that zebra crossing, again, you cannot move that car anywhere near that zebra crossing until there are no feet left on the road. If there is still a foot left on the road, you need to keep that car completely still, because if you do, you're going to see their foot twitching very, very quickly over that brake. Now, this one can creep up with lots of driving faults that can eventually convolge into this giant ball of serious faultness.
Excellent.
And it is, of course, the mirrors and the blind spot. And again, anytime you're moving the car from a standstill, you need to be showing that examiner that you are checking your blind spot on both sides before actually moving that car off from a parked position. And the mirrors, I think, is a really awkward one because, you know, there are situations where you think, oh, is that a bit pointless checking that mirror? And, you know, and what are the chances of someone actually being there? And yeah, maybe, you know, the chances are slim in that situation. But the problem is, what's the danger if there is someone there? And if we aren't doing it every time, then we get into the habit of not checking at all. And then, well, now you're not checking when it is actually dangerous. And next thing you know, you're going to put someone in hospital. So that's why when we're changing direction or moving the car across the road one way or the other, we are checking at least 2 mirrors to see what's actually going on in that situation and keeping an eye on what's going on around us. I really hate this one just as much as the examiner, and it's called tailgating. If you're not too sure what tailgating is, it means driving too close to the car in front of you. Most of the time, you're probably not doing this on purpose. It's more a lack of awareness. But there are a few major problems with this.
The first problem is if you are too close, it means you're not following the 2-second rule. And if you're not following the 2-second rule and they slam their brakes on, you're going to really struggle to stop the car without slamming into the back of them. It's also extremely distracting for the car in front, and it's aggravating. If you've ever been in that situation, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's also a bit of a bully tactic, you know, it's can scare that person in front into going faster, which is now dangerous. Got a little story with this one. A friend used to work at a pub when I was a manager at a pub. A colleague of mine, Colin, he was on his way home, and obviously we were on the late shift, and it was about midnight, and he's driving home, and there's a car right up his backside tailgating him. And they tailgated for quite a while, so each time they're getting closer to him, he's speeding up because he's like, okay, maybe I'm going too slow in the dark. And after about 5 minutes of him speeding up, the blue lights come on the car behind him. And of course, it's the police. And of course, Colin's answer is, yes, too fast, because you were tailgating me. Luckily for Colin, he did get off with a warning, but the point was, why was he being tailgated? Oh, this one is going to irritate the examiner. The examiner does not like seeing aggressive driving. The examiner wants to see you being a defensive driver. If you're not sure what that means, it just simply means we are there to avoid accidents. We're trying to avoid any serious situation. We're avoiding road rage, and we're trying to be as economical and safe on the road as we possibly can. Working as a team, we're a team player. Examples of this: staying on the gas when we approach a red light. Why? You're planning to stop. Why aren't you slowing down? Let other people know what you're doing with your brake lights. It's really scary for the passenger. And if you don't believe me, the secret to this is to watch the examiner's foot. And if you're going too fast into red lights or a situation that you shouldn't be, you'll see their foot hover over the brake suddenly. That's your sign you're doing something wrong. And it's even worse for the examiner because they can't actually say anything. They can't speak without failing your driving test. So it's really, really important that you try and keep them as safe as possible, not fearing for their life. It also makes you look like a bad boy wannabe racer, racing into all those red lights. Bad boys, what you gonna do? The other thing is it wastes fuel, which I don't know about you, but at the moment I cannot afford wasting fuel. And it also wastes your brake pads. And a good example of this is if you look at some electric cars, their brake pads last anywhere between 5 and 8 years. Why? Because they just don't have to brake as much. This one is really scary for the examiner. It's not a nice feeling at all. Rolling back. It shows a complete lack of control in the car, and it's going to scare the hell out of the examiner. And remember, they can't speak without failing you, so they really don't want to have to do anything. I'm going to put this real simple for you to avoid this one. To avoid this one, use the handbrake. I'll say it one more time. Use the handbrake. If you are on a hill and you need to stop the car, why not just use the handbrake? If you do, it's going to put the examiner's mind at rest. They're going to feel a lot better, and you're not going to risk rolling backwards at all. Yes, even if you have the world's best clutch control, don't risk it on a hill, just use a handbrake. And even if you are the world's best clutch control and you're not using the handbrake on a hill, this is going to be a yellow flag for the examiner. He's going to think, why aren't you using the handbrake? That's what it's there for. The hill starts, you know, park in the car, use a handbrake. The other thing you can do is put yourself in the examiner's position, okay? Think you're there, you can't speak, can't open your mouth, and you've got someone, they're on a hill, they're trying to balance the car without using the handbrake, and you're thinking, what are you doing? I don't care if you've got really good clutch control on the hill, just use it. And this is even worse if there's a car behind you. They just aren't going to risk anything if you aren't using the handbrake. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting use the handbrake every time you stop that car, just for a second. It's just any time you're on a hill. The final one, the examiner will not like this, and to be honest, it's a bit of a pet hate of mine, and that is maneuvers. They absolutely hate it when you are not looking behind you while doing a maneuver, and you're trying to do it like Michael Schumacher for some reason. Think slow shows clutch control. What you got to do is think like this. Slow shows good clutch control. You are showing the examiner you can control the car really slowly with that clutch. Fast shows you can't control the car. It shows that you don't know what you're doing. And anytime you're reversing the car during your driving test, by looking behind you, you are showing Toby, the examiner, that when you pass your driving test and you go off to Tesco later, you're not going to run poor little Darcy over who's running across the car park to the parents. But you aren't going to see little Darcy if you're just staring in one of these mirrors here. So moral to the story, always look behind you. Now there is loads more information about what the examiner is really going to hate. It's in my driving course if you haven't already had a look.
Get your driver's license faster and cheaper than ever with our online driving course. Sign up now and start learning at your own pace. Let's get this video started.
Click on the link or have a look in the description below, you'll find a link there. On to the next one.